Arctic.
Despite President Trump saying he has a framework, a Greenland deal, and backed away from using military force and imposing tariffs on NATO allies, the president continuing to make claims about NATO countries and whether they would be there for the U.S. if needed under Article 5. NATO members invoked Article 5, defending America following 9/11, and also fought alongside U.S. troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. The president on Fox News Thursday says the U.S., quote, never needed NATO, and accused allies of staying, quote, a little off the front lines in Afghanistan. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the comments are false and hurtful to families.
Let me start by paying tribute to the 457 of our armed services who lost their lives in Afghanistan. I will never forget their courage, their bravery, and the sacrifice that they made for their country. There are many also who were injured, some with life-changing injuries. And so I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling.
A year after it was legally expected to be finalized, the TikTok deal is done, and the app will not be banned in the U.S.
TikTok finalizing a deal to continue operating in the U.S. China and the U.S. signed off on a joint venture with major investors like Oracle, ending a long battle over access to the app for millions of Americans. TikTok says the new American entity will operate under defined safeguards.
ABC's Hannah Batta, Michelle Franz, and ABC News.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Lucky Larry's Landscaping, Larry! Larry saved his business money with a quick commercial auto quote from Progressive. Does it help he's his own marketing manager, accountant, executive assistant, and never been late? Technically, yes, but saving really put him over the edge. So, Larry, give Larry a round of applause. Be your own Larry. See if you could save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 now at News Talk KVNU, and I'm Will Feelright with your local headlines as we begin KVNU's For the People show. Well, marking the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Utah Governor Spencer Cox called on citizens in the state to return to what he called the civic virtue of the American founders during his State of the State address last night. Now, speaking from the House chamber, Governor Cox framed the upcoming legislative session as a pivotal moment for self-government. Now, he argued that the nation's longevity depends less on policy volume and more on the moral character of its citizens.
As we begin the 2026 legislative session in the 250th year of the American experiment, I echo the words of Senator Coolidge. Have faith in America. Have faith in Utah, and always have faith.
Now, the governor's speech focused heavily on moral infrastructure, specifically targeting early childhood literacy. Now, with nearly half of Utah's third graders currently reading below grade level, Governor Cox labeled the deficit a threat to future freedom. Now, he advocated for aggressive reforms to ensure that every child reads with confidence, calling it an essential tool for opportunity.
That means high standards and individualized support for struggling readers. Literacy is a policy choice. It means families, schools, and the state pulling in the same direction.
Now, regarding public safety and the fentanyl crisis, Governor Cox proposed a dual-track strategy of compassion and also accountability. He called for intensified efforts to disrupt trafficking networks while also simultaneously expanding recovery pathways for those struggling with addiction.
Our mission is to make Utah the worst place in the country to camp on the street and the best place to get help.
Now, throughout the address, Governor Cox cautioned lawmakers against seeing government as a cure-all for the society's ills. He emphasized that the pursuit of happiness, described by the Founding Fathers, was also a call to service and self-mastery rather than material pleasure. In other news, a Draper woman is facing second-degree felony charges of automobile homicide after a January 15th crash that killed a 40-year-old pedestrian in Sandy. So Zoe Blankenstein is accused of running a stop sign, striking Josh Perry as he was walking through a crosswalk. Now, the impact threw Perry onto a second vehicle. He later died from a non-recoverable traumatic brain injury. Now, witnesses described Blankenstein's Ford Escape zooming through the four-way stop. Police reported that she had slurred speech and a blood alcohol level of 0.309. That's more than 6 times the legal limit. And Utah lawmakers are considering whether floating solar panels could work on reservoirs and canals in northern Utah, including Willard Bay and along the Bear River system. Now, the idea was presented earlier this month to the Legislative Water Development Commission by a Utah-based company called WaterWise Solar Solutions. Now, supporters say that floating solar panels could reduce evaporation while also generating electricity. Now, no legislation has been introduced yet, but lawmakers say that more analysis is needed in order to move forward. Well, we've had some cooler temperatures today as it's only been into the high 30s compared to the 40s that we had earlier this week, and it was trying to snow through the day with these clouds. You may have even seen a few snowflakes or two. And now as we head into tonight, we'll see these clouds lingering overnight, temperatures dropping into the low teens. And for the weekend, mostly sunny, clear skies, temperatures staying right around the low 30s as we head towards next week. And weather this hour is brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. When it comes to air fresheners, snow scrapers, shop towels, seafoam, and more, Napa Auto Parts has all of the parts you need to keep your car running through these cold winter months. Stop by any of their 5 locations from Preston to Providence. It's Napa Auto Parts. And I'm Will Feelright. I'll have another check of local news coming up at the bottom of the hour as Jason Williams is in with KVNU's For the People show up next.
I swear, every dad thinks the thermostat is a personal challenge. You turn it up, 5 minutes later, he turns it down. If you're warm, he's losing. You know what I'm talking about, right? But here's the thing. Dad might not be wrong. You might just need better insulation. Call Cardall's Insulation. Honestly, most homes are not adequately insulated. Cardall's uses high-performance insulation that stops cold drafts and keeps your home warm so you don't have to blast the furnace. Call Cardall's Insulation at 755-5012 and call a truce with Dad, 755-5012.
Hi everyone, it's Congressman Blake Moore here. Strong families are the bedrock of our communities. That's why I'm focused on bringing Utah's core values to Washington and advancing pro-family legislation. I helped permanently increase the child tax credit, create investment accounts for children, and incentivize employers to provide better access to childcare, benefiting families and setting up our next generation for success. As a father of 4 boys, family is everything, and I am continuing to work on solutions to make raising a family in America more affordable. To learn more about what I am doing to advocate for you and your family in Congress, sign up for my weekly e-newsletter at blakemore.house.gov and follow along on social media at Rep. Blake Moore. If your family needs help navigating a federal agency or has questions about what I'm working on, please give my office a call at 801-625-0107. Happy to also help coordinate U.S. Capitol tours, take your comments, and provide legislative updates at any time. It is our honor to serve you and your family in Congress. Thank you. Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
You work before dawn and long past dusk. At Black Cliffs Equipment, we see that. That's why we bring you Massey Ferguson tractors. Right now, get 0% financing for up to 96 months on select tractor models. Plus, great offers on hay equipment. And when the work gets tough, our service team is here to help with genuine AGCO parts. As a way of saying thanks for all you do, mention this ad when you come in for a free gift. Black Cliffs Equipment, your Massey Ferguson dealer in Hyde Park.
Is your health and wellness journey just beginning? The Sports Academy is more than just a gym. It's a community that offers something for all ages and fitness levels. Are you ready to feel empowered, energized, and unstoppable? See for yourself why the Sports Academy is more than a gym. Check out our community today with the largest weight rooms, certified coaches, trainers, and instructors that will keep you motivated. Welcome to the Sports Academy community. Your club, your results, your life.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice. When it comes to home care, it's important for you to know you do have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of home care services, remember Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient, not the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Call for a free home safety evaluation, 787-1369, and visit primrosecare.com. Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency, so we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the people on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com, and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Friday afternoon here in Cache Valley. Andy Morgan joining us in just a couple of minutes. We've been spending some extra time with Andy over the last few weeks. Wanted to catch up from the holidays. We missed a few shows there before and during the holidays, but also to get ahead of the Utah Film Critics Association official nominees list, Oscars buzz, some Oscars films returning to theaters this weekend, by the way, which is probably the biggest news as far as what's new in theaters, honestly. But there's great stuff coming. We'll talk about that. Again, we discussed this a little last week, hints and rumors for years, but Kathleen Kennedy, it's official, is leaving the Lucasfilm world. This is after many years as one of the most well-known 14 total, guiding Star Wars generally, and also guiding through one of the most transitional times in the Star Wars universe, behind the scenes, as the Disney purchase went into effect, and Kennedy transitioned over into kind of being the decision maker at Disney for Star Wars related projects. Personally, I'm a pretty big fan of her work. She also, served as producer alongside Lucas on the Indiana Jones franchise, was a producer with Mr. Spielberg on E.T., and she officially started working for Lucasfilm in 2012 and was sort of co-chair alongside Lucas himself. And then she was elevated to the sole head of the company when Lucas sold his controlling shares to Disney. And Disney paid $4 billion, by the way, for those shares and the Star Wars brand. As you know, George Lucas then completely stepped out of the picture and even rarely weighs in on Star Wars in general these days, which I think is probably smart on his part. Although I often do find myself curious what his opinion is of this or that happens. But Kennedy, so it's been interesting. Older fans, and by older I mean probably my age, I don't think have been very kind to Kennedy at the helm of Star Wars, despite the fact that, under her leadership, we got The Mandalorian, which has been kind of a cultural phenomena. Even if I don't get it, The Mandalorian is the first Star Wars venture that became a hit and became a cultural phenomenon in which you have kids buying the toys and wearing the T-shirts and all the things you saw with the original Star Wars trilogy in the 80s. But this time around, I didn't get it. I saw them. I just didn't, I don't know. It didn't hit me for some reason. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series, though, man, that is, yeah. And I think their biggest success, of course, has been the spinoff of a spinoff, which, yeah, you knew that Star Wars had this potential, even with that first original trilogy. But Andor, 2 seasons of Andor, the story of Cassian Andor, who, spoiler alert, doesn't make it to even the first Star Wars film, first original Star Wars film before his death. He dies in the Star Wars timeline in between the prequel, Revenge of the Sith, and the only good prequel, and the original first ever Star Wars film, A New Hope. And his story, though, told in Andor is, and of course, his final moments of life, final days of life told in, I think, the best movie to come out of the Star Wars universe since Lucas's departure, Rogue One. That, I think, to me, it just stands. If you want to talk about Kathleen Kennedy's career being, the new George Lucas after he sold to Disney, I think Rogue One and the Andor series are the best examples. But there have been some really good things. There have been some huge faceplants too. The Boba Fett series, I slogged through that one. It was fun to, if you're a real Star Wars nerd, you'll know who I'm talking about. If you don't know who I'm talking about, you don't care. But it was fun to see an IG-88 actually get some screen time. You only see like a foot and a little piece of a head in The Empire Strikes Back, but one of the coolest action figures I think that was ever made. And so there were points in the Boba Fett series that were great, but overall just a huge pile of slop. That said, I don't know, it's been fun. Andy and I joke about this on the show all the time. It's been fun to watch the Kathleen Kennedy haters because a lot of times their hate seems to be, and it's always, middle-aged guys, which, you should have something better to do, maybe. But it's been pretty nitpicky and silly. There was a great upset that the new Jedi was going to be a woman when rumors started to come out around The Phantom Menace. And then that was confirmed by the movie. And then there was, previous to that, there was, shortly after the film's release, there was huge uproar over the fact that a stormtrooper takes his helmet off, and on top of that, he's black. So now we're doing the DEI thing with stormtroopers, blah, 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 blah. They're supposed to be, clones. And no, I mean, these are the things that grown men were arguing about on the internet. And no, they weren't supposed to be clones. That was before the fall of the Empire, and Phantom Menace takes place after that. Get your timeline right, nerds. This isn't unique to Star Wars in any way. You saw stuff like this. And again, we're talking middle-aged grown individuals having these same arguments now around Twilight and the Hunger Games and that Team Jacob, Team Edward thing. When the Hunger Games was in its heyday, that was pretty wild, and those people are now middle aged and also still arguing about it online. I don't know. Maybe it's something about super fandom. Maybe it's something key to these these franchises and to these properties as the Hollywood lawyers call them. Generate a certain or attract a certain crowd maybe that takes fandom more seriously. Maybe it's just the Star Wars and Twilight to its own set of fans are so beloved by the fans that any even the mere suggestion of changing something or making something different is offensive. Maybe it's a combination of all of these things, but I don't know. I think I was so nervous as a huge Star Wars fan. I was so nervous when the announcement that Lucas was going to sell. Everybody I think knew it was coming. He was getting older, and he'd hinted at it for a long time. But I was really nervous because I think the most obvious thing that could have happened is some Disney or some other big media mogul with lots of money to throw around organization buys the Star Wars name and franchise and rights to everything, and then just turns it into a quick money making scheme that would have made billions, of course, but then just hollows out the entire Star Wars, the brand, basically. To be honest with you, I was a little concerned Disney might do that because it's not theirs. What do they care? They just buy it and get, wring every ounce of money they can get out of it. And then who cares if they've hollowed it out and turned it into a joke at that point? That's kind of what I thought would happen when Lucas sold. And so if you're a Star Wars fan out there, I think that's one of the biggest reasons you should be a fan of Kathleen Kennedy, because I think they're probably, I have no insider information. I'm not that big of a nerd, but I think there were probably influences and forces inside of Disney that maybe wanted to go there. To make a few $1 billion in 2 to 4 years, and then who cares if Star Wars itself is then just kind of a hollowed out shell of what it once was, because we've beat it to death to make the money so fast. We'll just keep the streaming options alive and move on to something else. We made our money back, and so I kind of thought that's what would happen. I thought this was a quick cash out kind of buyout situation. And I think Kennedy was one of the people who made sure that didn't happen. She made sure that Star Wars stayed its own thing under the Disney umbrella. And I think this is worth pointing out, too, and Kennedy, I think, deserves some credit for this, but this kind of set the stage for, other purchases, Marvel and things like that, where, kind of similar rules were laid out. Marvel was gobbled up by Disney, but in such a way that the way that it was written out on paper, the purchase deal was written out on paper, Disney basically was just an owner on paper. All of the current decision makers and leaders that had made the Marvel franchise what it was and really built it up out of nothing, they got to stay and they got to remain the decision makers. And I think stuff like that is a pretty big deal. So to me, Kathleen Kennedy is somebody that should be kind of, for real Star Wars nerds, she's somebody that should be looked at as a bit of a hero. So I'm just saying it. By the way, the final work of Kathleen Kennedy will be on screen this year in a couple of different ways. The two films on the way, Mandalorian and Grogu, coming in May, and Sean Levy's Star Wars Starfighter, which we don't know a lot about yet, which is set to release in May of 2027, so back-to-back, year after year there. And what we do know about that, by the way, is that after the rise of Skywalker, Kennedy brought some of the originals back, Jon Favreau and some others, and asked them to create, more of these Star Wars live-action TV series that led to The Mandalorian and eventually Andor and some mediocre ones like The Acolyte and others, but. They are being brought back again now. One of Kennedy's last decisions, basically, coming back for, I don't know about this, Darth Maul, the villain from The Phantom Menace, is getting a series. Could be good, I guess. I mean, he was kind of interesting and just overshadowed by that really, really bad dialogue. And then Ahsoka is getting a second season. I don't know where that goes. And the revival of Ron Howard's Willow. Is everybody excited about that, right? That's going to be a series on Disney+. These are all decisions that Kennedy oversaw. If it was not, maybe she wasn't intimately involved in them all, but she oversaw them. And yeah, so that's where kind of things are at in the Star Wars world for what it's worth. But I thought this was kind of cool. Kennedy, when this announcement was made this week, yesterday, Disney's top brass gave Kathleen Kennedy a send-off, and there was a lot of stories told. But Bob Iger, Disney's head, told kind of I just thought this was cool. He said, when we acquired Lucasfilm more than a decade ago, we were bringing into the Disney family not only one of the most beloved and enduring storytelling universes ever created, but also a team of extraordinary, talented people led by a visionary filmmaker, George Lucas, and his hand-picked successor, Kathleen Kennedy. Iger then joked that this was quite a relief for him that Lucas was sending his team in to oversee not just the transition, but the long-term future of the Star Wars brand and Lucasfilm franchises, because Iger said, I think we would have screwed it up. I thought that was kind of a cool little moment of honesty from Bob Iger during the event yesterday, though. So, yeah, what happens next? Well, someone else will take the helm and hopefully keep, the track record of more successes than failures going, because again, as a lifelong Star Wars fan, I think what Disney has done is cool. And even though there have been some, like Boba Fett and Ahsoka, that weren't great, I think what they've done overall is cool, and they've been respectful to the Star Wars brand. And I think as long as Disney keeps that up, they'll have some success with fans. I think people will finally get over the newness being so shocking after, I get it, though, really. I talked to a Star Wars fan once. This was an uber Star Wars fan. This was someone that was dressed as someone from Star Wars at a Comic-Con event in Salt Lake that I covered. And I asked this person, how they felt about Disney taking up Star Wars and these new shows and all of that stuff. And he explained to me that it took him a while to wrap his head around this, because he said, Star Wars was such a part of his childhood, Star Wars was such a huge deal to him and such an important part of just his growing up. And he said, for years, he kind of felt like Star Wars was his, or at least if not his, it was something that belonged to his generation. And so he said he admitted it. He said it took me a while to sort of not be bothered by almost this selfishness that would set in when I would see young kids excited about the prequels or teenagers excited about The Mandalorian. He said, I realized at a certain point that part of my attitude towards all this new stuff coming from Disney-owned Star Wars was that Star Wars was no longer just mine and my generation's, that it was now. And I thought that was probably one of the most honest things a nerd has ever said to me. You know what I mean? Like, just the idea that there was this element of, like, because this was just ours, like our generation. And obviously more so for people older than us, but our generation, Star Wars was something only we had experienced it in theaters.
It's kind of funny though, because I would say like our age, and maybe a little bit older, I think are like kind of that peak Star Wars.
Oh, that's a good word.
Because
peak Star Wars,
like,
because that's what we're talking about
like,
here, right?
Like, for instance, my parents, while they, probably enthusiastically went along, weren't like, woo, Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy, these talkies have got a little strange. No, they, so I don't,
I'd kind of converted my mom by Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember.
But it's not, they're not going to go to a Comic-Con. Not that I'm going to go to a Comic-Con. But it's interesting too, because like my kids' age, like they think the prequels are like the bomb, you know, and you and I, again, to me,
we don't get it, but
well, this is.
I think we need to make space for it.
I always say this. I say, look, it's Star Wars, right? It's like pizza. Like, there's no bad pizza.
Yeah, and at the same time, there's also no pizza you should be paying $80 a slice for.
Right. Like, here's an example. Like
not to downplay Star Wars, but it wasn't.
Not to bag on like Little Caesars,
art.
right?
It was fun, right?
The prequels are Little Caesars. I don't know if that's a sponsor for the show. Just kidding.
Well, it used to be
until today. No, like for instance,
I think Little Caesars would agree with you on this.
No, you get a hot and ready pizza. If you eat it within like the first 5-10 minutes, you're like, this is delicious. This cheese, this crust. I don't know why people bag on Little Caesars. If you leave it for 30 minutes and you come back, you're like, where's all the cheese?
It's literally just a weapon at that point.
No, it's like tomato bread. You're like, where'd all the cheese go? The pepperoni's got legs and crawled up and went somewhere.
Disappearing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Once the moisture leaves.
And that's kind of how the prequels are to me. I'm like, that first bite was kind of delicious. What's going on 2 hours later? So
yeah,
it's funny though to watch the comments today with this whole Kathleen Kennedy, changing of the guard. All these guys in the comments,
so upset.
They're like, finally, the emperor has been defeated.
Well, and that's my defense of her. I think there were more forces within Disney that probably would have leaned towards just hollowing this out, making their several $1 billion in the first 4 years, leave Star Wars a hollow joke, and they made their money back from the purchase, and that'd be the end of it. But I think Kennedy said, or Kennedy coming in with the sale.
She has allegiance with it.
Yeah,
she's attached
and Disney
to
showing respect by saying, hey, you get to still call the shots.
Well, here's my question.
I think it played out really well.
Here's my question.
Sorry,
what are all the like incel nerds going to say now when Star Wars doesn't work? When Kathleen Kennedy has long gone, you know it's going to be. So for the first couple of years, they'll be like, "Well, we got to clear the slate. We got to clear the slate of all the Kathleen Kennedy stuff
with Ahsoka season 2."
Yeah, and once that's done, and once he's allowed to operate, just without it by his own self, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Oh, only boys now. Only boys and whites.
When
Star
Wars. The first
back to where it should have been.
Post Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars series on Disney Plus is the Ewoks of Endor season 2.
And all the Ewoks.
No, what was that called? Caravan of Courage.
Yeah.
That was the name of it.
They all live at home in their Ewok mom's basement, and they wear sweatpants, and they carry tiki torches. And you know what? They don't have to make their bed if they don't want to.
My biggest shocking thing, honestly, you read some of this stuff online sometimes, and then you remind yourself, this is a middle-aged man.
First of
that
all,
just typed this.
First off, there are no girls. Second off, Luke doesn't have to make his bed.
No girls allowed.
Third off, no girl Jedis.
We'll be back with more of the For the People movie show with Andy Morgan here in the studio right after these headlines with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you, Jason. The conservative organization known as Reawaken USA has reported receiving another violent threat on social media while visiting Utah State University yesterday. Now, the incident marks the second time this month that the group has faced security concerns at a Utah college. In a press release, the organization stated that an Instagram message depicted a rifle being loaded, followed by images of splattered blood. Now, local law enforcement was notified immediately and is currently investigating the matter. The threat comes just over a week after a man was arrested at the University of Utah for allegedly simulating rifle fire toward the same group. Now, Reawaken USA, a relatively new organization that visits campuses to engage students in debates and outreach, characterized the threats as horrific, but vowed to continue its mission. Now, a spokesperson for the organization said that their mission will not be deterred, adding that the group remains committed to reaching the Gen Z culture. Now, despite the threat, the group's scheduled tour stop at the Logan campus yesterday proceeded as planned. In other news, a 31-year-old Lehigh man was sentenced earlier this month to serve 1 to 15 years in the Utah State Prison following a months-long fraudulent scheme that had targeted businesses and individuals across the state. Dalton Slengerup was convicted on 5 second-degree felonies, including theft, issuing bad checks, and theft by deception. Now, investigators with the Utah Attorney General's office had uncovered a pattern of activity between July 2024 and early 2025 that spanned 6 counties from Box Elder all the way down to Iron. Now, according to court filings, Slengerup would use deceptive banking practices to obtain high-value items like e-bikes, motor vehicles, and trailers. Now, his methods included showing victims screenshots of fake bank balances and then depositing bad checks to create temporary account credits. Now, the court ordered Slengerup to pay almost $247,000 in restitution to his victims. Now, while he was sentenced on 5 separate counts, the judge ordered those terms to run concurrently. And tax experts are highlighting several free filing resources for Utahns as the 2026 tax season begins, specifically targeting those with simple returns and W-2 income. Now, the IRS Free File program allows taxpayers with an annual income of $89,000 or less to access brand name software at no cost through private partnerships. Now, for those requiring more hands-on assistance, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program offers free in-person and online help to individuals earning $67,000 or less, as well as those with disabilities or limited English proficiency. Now, while popular commercial providers like TurboTax and TaxSlayer offer free editions, experts warn that these are often restricted to the simplest filings. Now, residents with business income, investments, and complex deductions typically do not qualify for those commercial-free tiers, but to find other local access and software, taxpayers can visit the official IRS website. Well, we're going to see these clouds lingering through the rest of the day today as temperatures have been in the high 30s. Tonight will drop into the low teens. Could see some of the coldest temperatures we've had so far this season as temperatures are going to get down to around 10 to 13 degrees. Then tomorrow, low 30s with mostly clear skies. We'll continue that forecast into Sunday and looks like by Monday get back into the mid-30s. And when it comes to insulating your home, Cardall's Insulation can take care of not only your home, but your garage, your attic, just about anywhere, helping your home to stay more efficient and more quiet. It's Cardall's Insulation. Give them a call today at 755-5012. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU local headlines.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Minneapolis, hundreds turning out to protest immigration operations in the city despite bitterly sub-zero temperatures. It comes after a 5-year-old was detained with his father and sent to a facility in Texas. ABC's Matt Rivers says the largest protest was at the Minneapolis airport.
This was peaceful. You had a couple dozen people block one of the lanes that led to the departures area, the drop-off area for passengers. And the message was clear. They want ICE out of their city. They want local police and local officials to do more to try and get that to happen. And by doing this in a public place, they think they're spreading awareness about their message.
Millions of Americans on alert with winter storm warnings stretching from Texas to New England. Heavy snow and ice, followed by an Arctic blast, could leave states covered in ice and dealing with power outages into next week. President Trump today and along earlier, Vice President J.D. Vance were keynote speakers at the annual March for Life rally in Washington, D.C. This is ABC News.
Bringing Wall Street to Main Street. From your local experts in downtown Logan, this is the Adams Wealth Advisors Market Report.
Hi, this is David Kastner with Adams Wealth Advisors. Well, this week was marked by another turbulent chain of events. After Venezuela faded from the headlines, Greenland captured global attention with the political brinkmanship pushing the boundaries of risk calculations. Markets continue to trade on headlines, though signs of underlying stress began to emerge. A sharp move in the Japanese government bonds, driven by competing inflation pressures and politically motivated stimulus, combined with renewed narratives of foreign investors pulling back from the United States assets, it started to affect overall financial conditions. That proved enough for President Trump to soften his rhetoric at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Despite the volatility and mixed session today, equities finished the week little changed. The Dow closed at 49,099, while the S&P 500 ended at 6,916. Market action was largely characterized by sector rotation this week, with energy shares rising along the price of oil, which gained more than 3%. Financials continued to lag despite relatively strong earnings reports, as the sector has become a focal point of criticism from President Trump. The bond market also saw notable volatility, with the 10-year Treasury yield rising 5 basis points over the week. Precious metals remained strong amid heightened geopolitical tensions, with gold nearing the $5,000 mark and silver topping $103 per ounce. Amid the uncertainty, economic data provided a moderating influence. Inflation and consumer spending reports released this week pointed to continued economic growth alongside easing price pressures. Preliminary business activity data showed that both the services and manufacturing sectors continued to expand in January, though at a slower pace than expected, while consumer sentiment climbed to a 5-month high. Looking ahead, next week brings the Federal Reserve interest rate decision. While the policy rate is widely expected to remain unchanged, the meeting should offer additional insights into the future path of interest rates. Well, that's it for today. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next week with more market updates from Adams Wealth Advisors.
That's your update from Adams Wealth Advisors, guiding your financial future one day at a time. For personalized help planning yours, reach out to us at 435-752-1702. See you soon, Cache Valley. Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com.
Hey, Northern Utah! The 4th annual Northern Utah RV Show is January 22nd through the 24th inside the Golden Spike Event Center. See the newest RV models and score 2025 prices on 2026 RVs, with new RVs starting at just $10,995 and payments as low as $129 a month OAC. Walk through and compare, all in one place. Admission is free. January 22nd through the 24th inside the Golden Spike Event Center in Ogden. Sponsored by Bish's RV. Get all the details at NorthUtahRVShow.com.
The annual Greater Cache Valley Economic Summit, brought to you by Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce and Bank of Utah, is Tuesday, February 10th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. This year features a panel from USU, and keynote speaker is Tim Mahidi, founder and chief economist at Access Macro, a consulting company that makes smart banks smarter. Come enjoy a great day of learning, networking, and lunch catered by Elements Restaurant. It's the annual Greater Cache Valley Economic Summit, Tuesday, February 10th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Register online now at cashchamber.com. That's cashchamber.com.
A new year doesn't ask us to become someone else. It invites us to come home to ourselves. At Bell Sculpt, we know real change isn't about chasing youth. It's about restoring confidence after life has done its work. If 2025 stretched you, shaped you, or asked more of you than you expected, let 2026 be the year you choose you. To celebrate the new year, enjoy 26% off of all Bell Sculpt procedures. Our way of honoring your courage to begin again. To find a clinic near you, go to bellsculpt.fm. Bell Sculpt. Love the skin you're in.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. A giant new survey finds young supporters of President Trump are developing as a hardline faction within his core. We'll have analysis. Also, airlines don't have a great reputation for how they physically handle wheelchairs. Hear how many are damaged or destroyed each year. And the best ways to get started with those emergency savings. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. Monday morning from 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news, weather, and sports.
Discount Tire. So much more than a tire store.
If you're hearing this, get to Discount Tire and Automotive immediately. Winter driving is here, and your family's safety starts with proper maintenance. They do it all. Oil changes, alignments, shocks, struts, and brakes. These are the services that keep your vehicle safe. Plus, take 10% off all service when you come in today. With no credit check financing and 12 months no interest, there's no excuse to wait. Get in now to Discount Tire and Automotive.
Welcome back to the For the People movie show. Special lengthy edition, extended edition. I shouldn't say lengthy. That makes it sound like it's a bad thing. Bonus time. Bonus time with Andy Morgan.
So long. We're wrapping up the year.
It is. 2025 was I got a haircut today, and the person that I go to for this at the Boneyard, just giving a little plug there because they are so flexible with my not planning ahead whatsoever. And so they were filming end of the year videos with everyone that came in today, if you wanted to. And they asked me what 2025 in one word. So can we put you on our Instagram account? And I said, okay. And he said, just first thing that pops into your head. And I said, weird. It was a really weird year. And then I've been thinking about it all afternoon since. Why, it really was. But not just in politics and the news.
Longest year.
It was a really,
right.
And then I got thinking about, okay, we're going to do the movie show today. So movies, looking back at 2025.
Yeah.
A lot of, I don't mean weird, I can't believe that really bad film got really popular. Nothing like that. But there were a lot of movies that if I would have predicted, moneymakers versus not, sleeper hits and surprises and all of that, going all the way up to just a couple of weeks ago, seeing The Housemaid and surprisingly liking it a lot and recommending it to people. It was just a year. It was a very unpredictable and out of the ordinary movie year.
Yeah, and I would say
in good ways mostly.
I would say that that's probably going to continue. In fact,
what do you think is behind it?
I'm going to make a little plug here, and then I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
My plug is, so we're going to talk today about, again, kind of recap the year. I've got my 10. I settled on 10. Remember when we used to do 20 or 25 with me and Aaron Peck?
Yeah, back and forth.
Which feels
and we get to 7.
Make up your mind. 2 hours. Make up your mind. What did you like? And so I'm gonna throw out Andy's 10 best movies of 2025. And then the other thing is obviously we're not having a show this Friday, but when we go back to our normal schedule next week on Friday,
there's a lot starting. January is pretty full.
Well, I'm gonna do another. We're gonna do. We haven't done this before. We've done a little preview and said, hey, here's what's coming.
Yeah.
But next week.
So when we get back to it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 10 predictions.
Oh.
For 2026.
Are these box office predictions or
they're going to be all over the place?
I have some that will be good.
I have some that are going to make people sad.
Really?
Yeah, probably. It might make me sad. But I will put. Here's one. This ties into what you're saying. Here's one prediction. And people might be like, "Come on, buddy, that's a softball prediction." But what I will say is 2026 will prove yet again that two things. One, that studios, that there is nobody across the industry. I don't care if it's press. I don't care if it's, the bean counters. I don't care who it is. Nobody knows anymore. It's very hard to predict what is a success. We'll talk about this as we go through the movies, because there's a couple on my list that people go, really? They didn't do well. So I think that's one thing. Nobody's going to know anything. There's going to be things that are going to be hits that people go, wow. There's going to be, again, movies, a lot. And I'm going to say there's going to be two very hyped up movies that are going to underperform. And I'll even tell you,
is one of them The Bone Temple?
No. See, that's again.
I predict when that movie when it's done in theaters exclusively, then done. I predict that's the one where everybody looks back and thinks, one too many.
Well,
one 28 years later movie too many.
I've heard really good things, honestly.
Even though it has Ralph in it.
Yeah, I've heard really, really good things to start. But again, that's not going to make a lot of money. It just isn't.
No.
The movies that I think are going to fall a little bit flat, that people are just, because I think there's so much hype boiling underneath them right now.
Yeah.
Number one is The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, I actually agree with that.
I think what you're going to hear, and again, I
think that'll make a grundle of money in the first weekend and then fizzle quickly.
I bet it makes more money worldwide than it does.
Yeah.
Domestically. And
I just feel like that's not going to...
The pundits are going to come out again, and they're going to go, what is wrong with Star Wars? That's what's going to happen.
Well, and I'm not even predicting it will be bad.
No,
I'm just saying
it was supposed to be season. It was supposed to be like the next season. So they've
kind of cheated fans.
They really.
And so I think,
and that's what you're going to see. People are going to say this feels like one long Mandalorian season.
Yeah.
And then I also think, and again, not a popular opinion here, Avengers Doomsday coming out Christmas will fall flat.
The timing?
Mm-hmm. Not timing. I just think the movie itself is going to fall. I think it's going to fall flat. I don't think people are done with superhero movies. I just think people
doesn't seem to have the spark.
Well, and they're doing this rollout. We talked about this last week when we were making fun of the Captain America Skyrizi commercial, and it just, you know what I mean? Like, somebody did that. Somebody took on Instagram. They basically cut out all the sound of the Captain America, and then they put Skyrizi over it,
and it fits.
Literally fits like a pharmaceutical commercial.
No.
Oh, look at this guy with his baby.
Side effects
he can enjoy his baby now because he's on Skyrizi. That one,
well,
and then this week was Thor. Thor was better.
The Thor speech was at least ominous.
Yeah,
it had
it did
a tone of like, ooh, something's gonna go wrong.
Everything's
here.
leaked because it's the internet. So the X-Men one has been leaked. I watched that and thought, okay, if you're a huge X-Men fan, this is probably something cool. But
that one I'm excited about. Those never make a lot of money. The X-Men movies.
This just feels bloated. You know what I mean? It was It almost feels like they're like, hey, look, we haven't been doing so great.
Yeah,
we had this guy Kang going for a while.
Nobody was interested.
We had a Chloe Zhao superhero movie.
Maybe I'm alone in this. I feel like they missed a huge opportunity just not exploring. So there was that element in the Avengers movies where people are starting to sue them for like the damage cleanup and stuff like that. I think they could have at least one film. Just kind of a day in the life of the Avengers. Like, what's it like to be saving the world and yet, like, leaving destroyed cities behind?
We saw that a little bit in Batman versus Superman.
Got to have legal representation, life insurance policies.
Where people were like, protesting Superman because he broke the whole city, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say is, you have two opposing things. I think there's filmmakers. And I think there's actors that would be more. I mean, they have work; they can keep going, right?
Yeah, they're not hurting, right?
I think people look at Star Wars. The last Star Wars full, movie we had was 7 years ago. This, when The Mandalorian and Grogu hits theaters,
it was
7 years ago.
See, this is another thing I think hurts the films. It doesn't feel like it because there's been so much. From Disney.
Streaming content.
So it doesn't feel like 7 years since the last film.
Yeah,
because
it's almost like they shoot themselves in the foot. But again, I'd go back to even before the streaming content, when they were doing, Force Awakens, then they had Rogue One, and they had The Last Jedi, and it was like every year there was a Star Wars movie, kind of like Marvel was doing.
And then Solo came along, and everybody was, even though it was great, everyone was like, meh.
Yeah,
we're kind of over this Star Wars thing.
And the problem is all trilogies have this happen. I mean, go look at the Dark Knight trilogy, which is lauded, right?
Yeah.
The first movie does really well. The second movie does a little bit better. And then the third movie kind of, doesn't quite hit the first movie, even though people loved it, right?
Yeah.
It just, things run out of gas. So, I think artists would love to say, hey, let's put this on a shelf for a little while, right? Studios, the bean counters.
Every 2 years you've got to have.
No, I mean, because again, and that's the question, that's the eternal question in Hollywood, right? Is art versus commerce,
Yeah.
When you get all these like indie filmmakers, they're like, oh, Hollywood, it's, void of creativity. And I'm like, bro, everybody's making movies so they can get to the level where they can, buy a Porsche, right? Everybody wants that. Actors, if someone says they don't, they're lying. So,
This is interesting because I read an article. They were talking about Christopher Nolan and the Odyssey trailer coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And he was described by, he was...
That's how you do a trailer, by the way.
Yeah, that was a great trailer. I love Tom Holland, though, just looking like a college student.
There's no
standing
doubt.
in the middle of this.
How much dialogue wasn't there?
Olympic battlefield.
There was
he's just like in a windbreaker with curly hair.
No, I like it. But that's the thing, though. That is just...
But it raises your curiosity.
It has like 3 lines of dialogue. It's little vignettes.
And it's beautiful.
And it's not a Sky Rizzy commercial.
And you think, I want to see that.
Yeah.
But they were talking about Nolan, and they were saying he's a studio nightmare because he's art. Well, they don't use these words, but you just did. So using the words you just used, Christopher Nolan is art versus commerce. And so he's a studio nightmare because every studio wants to commit him to a film because it'll make oodles of money.
Yeah.
But he might take 6 years to make it.
Yeah,
and so the studios hate him apparently for this.
Yeah, there's a lot of filmmakers like that. I just think again, it's tough. And I'll go back to the franchises.
That's where it gets toughest.
Yeah, the franchises. Just because again, even like look at Superman. I mean, that was critically lauded. It did pretty good at the box office, but that wasn't a monumental. Like. People were like, wow, like there's people in the bank, like just, swimming in money. It's, I'll be honest with you. I lean after seeing things like the Fantastic Four and Superman, which I liked, but I'll be honest, like I didn't leave the theater doing cartwheels. Like it wasn't like
I really like Superman, but I was hoping for more.
Well, go back 10 years, right? The Force Awakens. When that came out, I mean, we hadn't had a Star Wars movie in a decade.
Yeah, it was genuine excitement.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody cared really everyone is basically saying, okay, don't mess this up. And he didn't, and so everyone was excited.
It almost would be impossible to, and they just saved so many things. Like that was genius marketing. That was, we didn't know, we saw the cast, right? But we don't know anything about the story forever.
Yeah.
Then they had the one little teaser. It was like a year before the movie. Then the full trailer came out that spring. Like, again, just really well done. And I don't see that very often anymore.
No.
I think studios, like for example, if I was running Marvel and I was doing the Avengers Doomsday, probably what I would have done, again, and sometimes you just got to have a leap of faith that people aren't stupid.
Yeah.
And what I would have done is just released a 1-minute teaser.
Yeah.
Before a Christmas movie.
That's what they should have done.
1 minute, only had it in theaters, right?
And very
And
vague.
then the next day had put it online, and it's just a minute, and it's just maybe a couple pieces of voice and like Nolan's trailer, and just vignettes. And the kind of vignettes that make you go, whoa, 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 whoa. What was that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, for example, when we saw the Avengers Infinity War and Endgame trailers, I remember in the Endgame, you see this shield, this Captain America that has this giant, cut in it, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. You just think, well, what is that about? So
there's got to be a story here, right?
Do that, and then your next trailer you release in the springtime or summer. That's a full trailer, and then you hit the marketing side. The other thing you could do is if you wanted to do a little teaser, like with Captain America, drop it during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
When's the last time you watched a Super Bowl commercial where you went, whoa?
That's another thing. The missed opportunity of timing those trailers at a time that.
Well, they came out a week before the Super Bowl now.
Yeah, and that I think That's another thing that I think has kind of ruined the marketing.
Yeah.
What worked for them with the marketing? And I have to ask this, not to ruin your list, but Hail Mary, the next. So this is by the guy that wrote The Martian,
Project Hail Mary,
and it looks like the same story, but
kind
different.
Of. Yeah,
it's slightly.
People that have read the book,
he wakes up alone on a spaceship as opposed to waking up alone on Mars.
Talk tearful, action, and Ryan Gosling, America's, Jimmy Stewart, basically at this point.
Do you think? Any predictions on that? Do you think that's going to be a disappointment or
it's
land exactly where you predict?
It's the dudes behind the Jump Street movies, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the guys behind the last 2 Spider-Verse movies.
By the way, those Jump Street movies, I caught just a little bit of the second one. It was on, I don't know, one of the channels. I was flipping channels one day, and very, very underrated.
Yeah, I know. I think
they're funny.
Those hold up.
Yeah.
Hey, really quick though, before I know we got to wrap up here in a few minutes.
Yeah,
I got some news that I want to tell listeners because I know there's probably a lot of Stranger Things fans out.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, everyone knows that the final episode, the 2 hour and 5 minutes episode, starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, so 6 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow.
Yeah,
and the episode's called The Right Side Up, but you can also see
right?
this.
This is done at that point.
Sure.
Other than maybe a movie or 2.
Sure.
Even though they're like 40 now.
Sure, Jason. It's done. Anyway, just like Star Wars. But you can also see this in theaters, and there's a few options, but not in Cache Valley, as far as I can tell.
On the same day?
Tomorrow, yes.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to take a drive down to Salt Lake, you can see it at the AMC Theater in West Jordan. It is also playing in numerous Cinemark theaters. There's the Century, Salt Lake, the West Jordan, Jordan Landing one, Provo. And then also there are a few Megaplex ones as well. So it is playing at Legacy Crossing, Jordan Commons, and Thanksgiving Point. So you have some options if you're a huge Stranger Things fan and you got to see it in theaters.
That might be fun.
So tomorrow, not doing anything for New Year's Eve, Stranger Things. Either stream it 6 p.m. Mountain Time or...
Now that's going to be a theater crowd.
Yeah. They've been hyped. They're going to be hyped.
The people that chose that for their New Year's Eve.
Yep.
That's going to be... You'll make some friends. No, I shouldn't judge. I would totally do that, actually, if I didn't already have plans. This is, again, an extended movie show. Looking back on 2025, looking ahead at 2026. Wrapping things up and unwrapping things for the new year. I hope you'll stick around into the next hour with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com here with us in the studio. And we'll be back right after this quick break here on KVNU Logan.
.610 AM and 102 FM.
Best part of my day.
News Talk KVNU, Logan. Proud to be locally owned and operated by the Cache Valley Media Group.